Okay, so in this video we're going to go through the display and how to power on and roll through all the different settings that you have on your QuietKat bike. We'll start with our color display, which is featured on all of our mid-drive models. To power on the bike, simply push and hold the power button. You'll see the logo come up and it will automatically go in default to the Eco mode on power level 1. You notice at the bottom you have an odometer displaying the amount of miles on your current trip. If we tap the I for info button on the keypad, we can cycle through the different displays. So you have your total odometer, you have the max speed reached, you have the average speed, the range left on your battery estimated, amount of calories you've burned, the amount of time spent on the bike, and then we're back to the trip. To change from Eco to Sport, simply press and hold the plus button. To go back to Eco, simply press and hold the plus button again. To select through the different modes, simply tap the plus and minus buttons. Plus all the way up to 5 for maximum power output. You can also go all the way down to 0, which is no electric motor assistance. All manpower in power level 0. Power level 0 is very good while descending steep and technical hills, so you can switch your feet without engaging motor power, potentially causing a safety hazard. If you press and hold the minus button, you will enter walk mode, which will actually accelerate the bike at about 3 miles an hour. This is really handy if you're trying to walk your bike up and over a steep hill or over rugged terrain to avoid having to carry the weight of the bike. Simply walk along, pressing and holding the minus button, and the bike will move along with you. By default, you will see the speed in miles per hour. If you'd like to change it to kilometers per hour, you'll need to enter in the back end of the display. So let's go into the back end of the display and see what options we have. To get to the back end of the display, double tap the I button on the keypad. You'll notice we have display settings, information, and exit. To scroll through, we'll use the plus and minus buttons on the keypad. To enter a menu, press the I button. Inside the display setting, the first selection you'll see is the units. Pressing the I button and then scrolling with the up and down arrows on the keypad, we'll switch between imperial units and metric units. Push the I button to select, and you can move down. The brightness is the brightness of the display screen. If you're riding in low light or at night situations, sometimes it's nice to drop the brightness of the screen down so that you don't have a bright light shining up into your eyes. The default is 100%. The auto off will determine how long the bike can sit idle before the motor turns itself off to save the battery. This can be handy if you're constantly stopping and exploring and you find that the bike keeps turning off on you. You can extend this time. The default mode can be changed between Eco and Sport based on your personal preferences. The power view can actually change the view that you get on your display while you're riding. It will show you the amount of current that you're using in the battery or the amount of watts that you're using outputting from the motor. The default setting is power, so you can view the watts being used. The SOC view is simply the amount of battery you have left in there. That can be between voltage and percent. We recommend percent as it's usually an easier indication of how much battery you have left. Trip reset. This can be changed at every time you power on the bike, it resets the trip. By default, it's set to no. The wheel size is based on the wheel size of the bike. On our 26-inch fat tire wheels, the wheel is actually a 29-inch diameter. This is required for proper speed and speedometer indication. The speed limit is to control the max speed in which the motor will output. On QuietKat's 1000 watt and larger motor bikes, they are unrestricted, and the speed is determined by the terrain, the weight of the rider, the gear, and other conditions. All of QuietKat's 1000 watt bikes are unrestricted, and therefore the speed limit is based on the terrain, the weight of the rider, and the gear the bike is in. All of QuietKat's 750 and smaller motors are electronically limited to 20 miles an hour, so they comply with US federal law in the 3-class bike system. AL sensitivity is the ambient light sensitivity, which is basically how sensitive the sensor on this display is to change the brightness based on how bright it is outside. So if it's very bright outside, the screen will be very bright. If it's darker, the screen will actually get dimmer to save power. You can set a password to lock all these settings in. You can also set the clock on the display to make sure it's accurate. Very last, select back to return to the previous menu. The only other option we have in this menu is information. When we go into information, we can view battery information to see anything about our current battery. We can also go through any of the error codes that may have come up. The error codes are great when reporting any issues to QuietKat customer service. To exit the display, simply select exit, press the I button, and you'll return to the default screen. That is the operation of the color display on the QuietKat mid-drive motors.